So it's been a week and Jade has come out. And survey says so far she's very fun and pretty good, actually. Surprisingly, they added a support frame that kind of has a lot of unique personality. First off, I love her aesthetic, but that's besides the point. We're here for build statistics. She is kind of a good support frame. The reason I only say kind of is because a lot of her things come from the fact that she's like a hybrid, like Equinox kind, with a built-in armor strip slow, like Gloom, and kind of more aggressive than Pillage. It does take several ticks, which I can show here. Let me switch this for a normal corrupted battle group here. The only problem with this is the fact that it's a cone in front of you, and also it's several ticks. It's a pretty slow process, but this works because of the new armor changes anyway, which makes her pretty well versed in most things. It does, obviously, as you can see here, pretty much slow really aggressively, and that allows her to pretty easily pick it off enemies, which is very good because, as with Banshee, who has a really good slow, or stun, sorry, as in silence, she's a very fragile frame. So obviously Rolling Guard is really, really good on her, and her tanking support abilities, Judgment's Light, or Light's Judgment, and also the Symphony of Mercy's effect for Spirit of Resilience will not keep you alive. Though you're more tanky, like your Chromas, your Hildrens, and such like that, will very much appreciate you using that. However, you can also just use Power of the 7, which increases ability strength. As you see, I have a 64% on this build without much of my buffs running or anything like that, and they will pretty much clear most content with you just being around them. The good thing about this is if you go for selfish, mainly low range builds, it is affected by affinity, not actual range. So that is a very good, if they're faster than you, or if they're playing in the next room over, it will give you a lot of flexibility. So yeah, her kit does feel pretty complete. She has an innate damage res shred off of her 1, which applies things called judgments. Obviously expanding this range is really, really, really important. Definitely a little bit clunky. Its LOS check can sometimes get just randomly stuck on stuff. Hydron's a very good example. If you've been farming levels or anything off of her, it gets stuck on the terrain a lot, so it just doesn't pick up enemies as aggressively as it should. Obviously, I'm using Evensong, her signature bow. I do think it's a very good weapon. It has innate multi-shot properties with the 35%, so with Galvanized and all of that, you can get some absurd numbers, and it has a pretty good status because it hits 7 times puncture, decreasing and increasing the damage they receive. It's a pretty good bow, actually. The only thing is because it's not the Dread, it doesn't have an Incarnon, which makes it one of the best weapons in the game, personally, because it just has such high slash weighting. And then obviously we have her 4, which is a little bit more complicated, it feels. So a good interaction to note is Symphony of Mercy. First off, has a ability strength and weapon damage. It will gain duration if you kill enemies marked with judgments, which obviously use a lighter color so you can confirm that they are actually affected by it. On her ultimate, her 4, enemies marked by judgments, if you alternate fire, will just explode into pretty good damage projectiles. If you are looking to use this exalted weapon, I do heavily recommend modding her Glory, that's the weapon's name, with speed modifiers, because this weapon shoots extremely slow for an exalted, which normally has like above average statuses. It's fairly low, but you can get some innate multi-shot with galvanized diffusion, lethal turret, using Galvy shot because it has a decent, pretty good status chance. So just run radiation heat viral, or change it because they just changed how the multipliers work around. But this will shred most content. This is what I've been running Belly of the Beast, because it just deals a lot of damage, and with judgments they have an innate defense shred applied to them. So this is the build I usually run for it, just because it's a good versatile one, and combined with, you know, using your standard weapons and anything like that, you can get away with it. for my build that I've been running, having a lot of success with. Growing power is always really good, but the fact that you can have 2 of these is insane. So physique, just because she has a heal based thing, this can honestly be switched out for anything. Just reformat her second aura slot, and then you have 2 freebies that you can change between builds. I run Continuity, Stretch, Flow, Augur Reach, Rolling Guard, Equilibrium, Transient Fortitude, Blind Rage. Decent efficiency obviously is being covered by Equilibrium, and the fact that I have a Energy Max Shard and a 50% effectiveness on Energy Orb Shard, that definitely helps. Multi-augmented, and I have Arcane Acceleration here because this was me trying to make other weapons really, really good. Some of her abilities apply judgments, increasing damage vulnerability, the defense shred I've been talking about, for 10 seconds notably. So these have very, very, very good stats. Obviously, Deathbringer, you can push 300%. I have done it in multiple runs of Belly of the Beast. The duration increase per judgment does not increase. However, in Steel Path, it does not matter. This is not capped by the max duration you have. I have pushed over 90 seconds with it in Belly of the Beast Steel Path because of how many enemies spawn at the end stretch of it, where you can just rack up like 50 kills rapidly. Perfectly fine. Power of the 7 is obviously really good. It does affect all of the rest of her abilities, so this 25% reduction per second, you can boost it closer to 30. Actually, fun fact, you can actually test this in this. So we'll do that, and then we'll go to abilities, and then, yeah, 31%. Slow, obviously, is per second, so it's not as good as Gloom. It's not instant. It's not that you press the button and snap, it works. And then Glory on 9, obviously, since we're running a lower efficiency build, you can see the drains and all that. This is probably her most subsumable. It doesn't really need to be on her kit to make it work. Light's Judgment and Symphony of Mercy, however, are 2 of the ones that I will say pretty much always run. There's no reason not to run the thing that buffs your entire team, buffs your damage, and buffs your abilities. That being said, Power of the 7 with high strength mainly means if you decide to change off her 3, which I wouldn't really recommend, I find this ability pretty good, especially because it's Gloom and Pillage like kind of knitted into one. If you subsume her 4 off for like maybe Roar or anything, I haven't really seen I haven't looked into the helmets, but like a lot of abilities would go pretty well in her 4, especially because if you have to run a little bit of range for Light's Judgment just so it can hold a corridor and things like that. Overall, she is a pretty good support frame. I wouldn't say she's as good as Trinity for team upkeep, though. I wouldn't go that far. Trinity mainly works because of the instantaneous procs of her abilities. Energy Vampire can be set up to proc instantly the second you click it, either killing the enemy and feeding you a ton of energy, or marked for death build, obviously. Her 4 is a instant 75% damage reduction and a massive heal on shields and health, which makes her very good. And obviously Link is one of probably the strongest abilities for damage mitigation next to Parasitic Link and, you know, Shadows of Evil, Shadows of the Dead, making it very, very good. Honestly, it's just good we have another support frame that kind of like mixes and matches other frames, because she has like aspects of Equinox with the ability strength and being able to like mass crowd control damage, which is very good because Equinox probably should get a rework so it's more like that. But yeah, also her aesthetic is absolutely gorgeous, so I have 0 problems with her. I thought before she released, when they were showing off, like, oh, look at what she does here, I was like, okay, she's just gonna, like, can other support frames. But no, her support is actually weak enough that it's not that worth it. However, before I go, let me give myself invulnerability, and then let me feed my Hound to the enemies. Her 3 has a very particular effect where you can res your teammates from a distance. It's not that fast. Also, if you're going down in missions that this has to be procced consistently, I would more or less question why you're doing those missions in the first place. But obviously this does have fringe effects, like the fact that you can res your companions, which is probably what it's mainly for. But also, if somebody W keys in and you can't officially, like, arbitration's a really good example, or not arbitrations, like super high-end content where enemies will swarm in a specific zone and you can't reach them. It's super good for getting them up without sacrificing yourself and causing, like, reset of stacks and all that. So overall, yeah, I think she's really, 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 really good. There's obviously some things that could be ironed out, like her LOS checks on Light's Judgments. Again, sometimes it just doesn't even pick up enemies standing on top of it, which, best bet, just instead of throwing it on the floor, throw it on a wall or like a doorway entrance, because that's the best chance of it. So yeah, Jade, super cool. I didn't actually expect to have as much fun with a support frame that kind of like copy and pastes abilities, but I am all down for frames that are more support oriented, and we're not leaning more into you need to slash proc, you need to slash proc, you need to slash proc. I'm very happy with her 3 being a like cone slow damage shred or defense shred, because it makes a lot more sense than, especially because we just did the armor rework. So yeah.